Welcome to the Infuse Compassion Podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world.
Welcome back, Compassionators, to this edition of the Infuse Compassion Podcast. I certainly hope that you joined us last week. We had such a fantastic conversation with Dr. Elia Gourgouris, and there are just so many different directions that we could go on this. Dr. Elia is just this light to the world. And so, again, if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and listen to that. Our conversation today will make more sense, for one thing, but you just need to hear what he's bringing to the world. And so with that, Amy, what did Dr. Elia bring to us that really stood out to you?
Well, first of all, there was so much. And, you know, Mark and I also, at the end, once we were done with the recording of it, we said we could have literally talked to him for an hour or two longer. There is so much depth, so much wisdom, so much experience that this man has. I am completely honored that we got to meet him previously and that he said yes to joining our podcast. Now, to answer your question, there were a couple things that really stood out. One was really listening to that inner voice, whether you call it intuition, inner wisdom, whatever you happen to call it, that inner voice inside of us that's telling us, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. This doesn't feel safe. This doesn't feel right. The way our body is showing up, sickness, illness, resistance, anger, frustration, these are all warning signals, right? These are all warning signals. That's one piece. And then the other one, which is so close to my heart, forgiveness. Now I'm going to show everybody this. This is Kuan Yin. She is the goddess of forgiveness and compassion. And I found Kuan Yin in 2004, 2005. I saw her in 3 different places repeatedly in like a month's period. Finally, I said, who is this? Who is this? They told me who she was. And I was suffering, I think I've shared this on the podcast previously, I was suffering from 4 herniated discs behind my heart and 6 bulging discs, 3 in my neck, 3 in my lower portion, lost the use of my right arm. And when I started to forgive, I realized when I saw her over and over again, I learned who she was. I was like, oh yeah, I've got some forgiveness to do. First of all, I need to start forgiving myself. And then I need to start forgiving some people that I feel I was wronged by. And my life began to transform when I really embraced the power of forgiveness.
You know, your story, Amy, it just connects so well with what Dr. Elia was talking about. He talked about the physical symptoms he had when he realized that what he was doing was what was out of alignment with that prompting, with that voice that he was getting. And we ignore that voice at our own risk, at our own peril. Mm-hmm. And that's what he described, is that the more he ignored that voice, the more his physical well-being went down and down and down. That alignment that we have within our human beings, mm-hmm. with the physical and the spiritual, is so real. And if your physical body is going in a bad direction, look at that alignment. Mm-hmm. Look at where that alignment is. He talked about how he almost died because he was pushing himself against alignment with that little prompting that he had to go a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing that same thing from you, Amy, that I wasn't aware of all those physical ailments that you have because I've only known you in this time when you were more aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And so those things tend to go, and I'm not saying that that's the source of everybody's physical problems they've ever had, but it is a symbol or is a sign that something's going off within your being. And I love the point that he made that alignment, once we get aligned, it allows us to feel alive. And it allows that healing to be able to come in, and healing on many different levels, physical, spiritual, social. And there's great power in that healing that can happen.
It is such a difference maker, you know? I mean, when we think, you know, we talked about I call it the 50-pound pack that we're walking the planet with, you know, all this stuff. Maybe it's other people's, maybe it's your stuff. We don't have to hold on to it. We can choose to let it go, right? We can choose to let it go. I was just having a conversation with someone recently, and we were talking about stuff that happened years ago. And I said, you know, maybe it's time for some forgiveness here. And this person said, it's too late. They said, hold on, I wrote it down because they said, I can't make it right. They said, I can't make it right. Okay, you can't make it right now. Today you can't make it right. But is holding on to it helping you live your best life? It's done. We've got to forgive ourselves. And if the person is still walking the planet, whether they are or not, ask them for forgiveness, right? It is such a powerful gift to give to ourselves and the world because, and Dr. Elia talked about this. He said his ability to see the goodness in others begins with our ability to see the goodness in ourselves. Yeah. And how we just show up as the happiest version of us is walking the planet. Oh my goodness. Imagine what our world could look like, folks, if the happiest version of us was walking this planet. Imagine the world that we could create right now if we could all just forgive ourselves and the people around us. Wow, that's the world I want to be in.
Yeah, the other powerful phrase that he used was self-forgiveness is the ultimate act of self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved that. That self-forgiveness is the ultimate act of self-compassion. So, Amy, I'm going to ask you a question, and the listeners, I did not prepare her for this at all. So now I'm throwing curveballs at my partner here. But in your experience, when you've talked to people who have a hard time forgiving, you just mentioned one example there who said, I can't make it right. What are some of the biggest barriers that you see that people have in self-forgiveness?
Mm-hmm. And I see this a lot in the coaching that I do with my clients. It's like a lack of worthiness. They almost see it as a penance, right? I'm not worthy of the forgiveness.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy of that. And that feels so heavy to deny yourself of love, of self-love, of self-compassion, of self-kindness. Even when I say it out loud, it feels cruel. It feels cruel.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 50-pound bag of rocks. Oh. It's I deserve to have to carry this weight, because I've seen that too, where no, I have to do, whether it's this penance or whatever they feel like they have to have, I have to carry this around with me. Yeah. But again, that deteriorates the best of us. It keeps us from showing up as our best selves for others. And so there's a part of me that wants to say self-forgiveness is your ultimate act of self-compassion, but it's an act of of compassion toward other people too, because you can't be as compassionate to them as you could be if you're carrying around your 50-pound bag of rocks.
That's right.
If you can put that bag of rocks down, maybe you can lift them instead of carrying around that 50-pound bag of rocks.
It's literally putting yourself in prison.
Yeah.
It's literally putting yourself in prison, and the limitations, the barriers, the blocks that you put between you and the people around you that want to connect with you, that want to experience this most beautiful side of you. And so for anybody that's struggling to show themselves self-compassion, self-forgiveness, if this is you, if you're listening and this is you, I want you to think about this question. And that is, how is your choice to not forgive yourself making the original act any better?
Yeah.
Period.
That's a great question.
Question mark. And to just sit with that.
Yeah. Repeat that question. To give it to us one more time.
How is your choice to not forgive yourself going to help the original act get any better? How is that going to help?
Yeah. Because I don't think there's any way to say, oh, it's going to help by this. There's really no way it helps. And it's still hard. And I get it. I still have things that I have a hard time forgiving myself for. And it's hard to get past those. But the more that we can, the more that we can be forgiving and helpful to other people.
That's right. So Mark, you've shared some things along the way, but let me ask you the same question. Is there anything that you haven't shared already that you're like, wow, this really struck me?
You know, the point on self-forgiveness was one that jumped out really strong for me. And then the other one that I shared was that alignment, that we will feel alignment with purpose in our lives. And I just thought his path was really interesting, where he went from being a clinical psychologist and very prosperous practice that he had, and then just getting that little nudge from that voice deep within us that says, you need to change paths. You need to bring more light to the world. And there's a struggle in that of, I don't know what that means. I don't know how I'll make a living doing that. I don't know how to let go of what I've been doing. But boy, once you get aligned, it makes a huge difference. I spent 20 years of my career in corporate public relations, and for the most part, it was pretty good. But I remember a time when I was with some companies and I'm promoting their products and I'm going, does this really matter? Does this really matter that much to the world? Yeah, we're making money. Yeah, I guess we're giving some companies some software they need, but does it really matter that much in the bigger picture of things? And I was feeling that misalignment. And it was amazing the change when I got involved in some work that was more aligned with my values, and that was particularly a value around helping other people and around helping people to grow and to be the better version of themselves. And that shift in alignment is really, really powerful.
So let's talk about that more. What are some of the things that you experienced when you made that conscious decision to move to a different path that was in more alignment with your values?
Well, first, I experienced the same kind of stress that Dr. Elia was talking about, where it's like, oh no, what am I doing? This is like a completely new line for myself. I'm shifting industries. I'm shifting focus of what I'm doing. So there was a lot of stress that went along with it. And a lot of stress around getting rid of the expectations of, no, this is the path that you were on, and you kind of have to stay on that path. But once I got there and I realized that I was doing more good in the world, I felt like I found my way home. And it's really listening to kind of that inner self of where is my alignment, where are my values, and how am I demonstrating that on a day-to-day basis. And that brings you a lot more peace. Like Dr. Elia said, it may not bring you a lot more money, but it brings you more peace, and you'll be able to get by. You'll be able to do what you were put on this earth to do.
And I think when we can get in alignment with our soul's purpose, right? Why we're here, things just flow easier.
Yeah.
You know, things just, doors just open. You know, the universe is like, yes, thanks for showing up. We were waiting for you. I'm glad you found the front door.
I'm glad you found the door, even though it seemed like it was the back door that you had to kind of wander your way around to. You know, there was another point that I just remembered that he made about not taking himself too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of that forgiveness too. I think back on things that happened in my life that I thought were terrible and that I carried with me for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I bring them up with other people, they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a light example of this. When I think I was 14, I was either 14 or 15 years old. I was selected as a soloist to play a violin solo with our district's honor orchestra. Okay. And so it is a big deal for, you know, a guy because I was 14, there were people in the orchestra who were 17, 18 years old. And right in the middle, I had practiced this. I had this solo down cold, the Nardini violin concerto. I still remember exactly what it is I was playing. And I got right in the middle of it, and there's this little orchestral interlude. And I brought my violin up under my chin, and I raised my bow, and I went, I don't know what the next note is. It just completely, the way I think of it is I had a completely blank tape playing in my head, because memorization in music is really playing by ear. It's hearing what you're supposed to play and then just knowing where that is. And I had a blank tape. I got nothing. And the orchestra director looked over to bring me in, and he saw that look on my face. And he had to kind of stop, and he motioned me over and pointed on the music to where my part was. And I played a few bars looking off of his music, and then I went, okay, now I remember what it is. And we went on with the rest of the piece. Aww. Years later, I was talking to one of my best friends who was in that orchestra. I know he was in that orchestra. And I brought that up to him, and he said, I don't ever remember that happening. I said, what do you mean you don't remember that happening? I know you were there. It was this huge gaffe in the performance in the front of everybody. And he goes, no, I'm pretty sure I was there. I just don't remember that happening. And I thought of that episode because it's an example of some of those things that we carry in our bag of rocks. We carry around a lot of things that we think maybe were really weighty, but they're only weighty to us. And they probably weren't weighty to anybody else. Yeah. And particularly over time, they're probably not as serious as we're making them. I loved his example about having people rate the things that they haven't forgiven themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. And people putting 10 on something. And he said, well, wait, did somebody die? They said, well, no. He said, okay, then it can't be a 10. It can't be a 10 if somebody didn't die. And we make them bigger than they probably are in reality. And that's another portion or another reason I think sometimes it's hard to let go, is we've made things bigger over time than they actually are.
I do want to bring the importance in of accountability, right? Because I think sometimes people are not taking accountability for things that they've done. And that has made it difficult for them to forgive themselves because they haven't properly had the conversations and said, listen, I did wrong you. I'm sorry. I am truly sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I was a selfish jerk. I've grown up a lot since then. Whatever it is, right? That's the other piece is, yeah, there is some accountability here that needs to happen. And I would offer this as well. If there's a conversation that you need to have with somebody, maybe you can't make it right, but to let them know that what you did was hurtful, was harmful, was not the way that you should have shown up. Pick up the phone, whatever it is, walk across the street and just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. And then see how you sleep that night. I guarantee it's going to be completely different. It'll be taking accountability and giving an honest, genuine, authentic apology is one of the kindest things that we can do for ourselves and for the person that we may have wronged. And sometimes we're even shocked because we hear stories like what you just shared, Mark, where people they're like, I don't even remember that. But you do, right? Whoever you are, you remember it, right? So, and if they're not with us anymore, you just can't bring yourself to do it, write it down. Write it down, burn it. If you believe in a higher power, say the prayer, ask them to help you release this. It's a gift for yourself, for the other person, for the world. Yeah.
And so this is the phrase that's starting to come to my mind. Drop the bag of rocks. Just drop your bag of rocks and let go of those things. Because if we're going to infuse compassion into the world, we have to bring our compassionate selves. And if we're not having that compassion with ourselves, it's awfully hard to have that compassion for other people and to bring that light to them. Yeah.
Sometimes there's work, right? Sounds easy to drop the bag of rocks, but it's a lot easier than continuing to carry the rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. What's easier, carrying the bag of rocks or taking them out?
Yeah.
And in the end, it's going to be taking them out.
That's right. Wow. Mark, what else? Is there anything else?
Those are the main ones. Those were the big points for me. And I would just say to our compassionators, go back and listen to that episode. I really think that's an episode you could listen to 2 or 3 times and get something out of each time through, because Dr. Elia has so many great little nuggets. We're also going to put his contact information in the show notes again with this episode. So if you feel like you could benefit from what Dr. Elia is bringing into the world, reach out to him too. He's a great guy. Amy and I have said this to each other offline. It's really just an honor that we've met him and know him. That he's part of our circle now. Yes. He's such a wonderful person.
And there's one more thing that I just want to share. Dr. Elia is a coach. So if somebody is listening to this and they're struggling with thinking, how do I find compassion for myself? How do I find a way to forgive myself? You're not alone. Okay. Talk to the people you trust around you, or reach out to Dr. Elia. He is a coach. He specializes in this. He can help you put down that bag of rocks, right? Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody, for showing up for another episode. We will see you next week. And don't forget to always infuse compassion into yourself and the world around you. And one more thing, hold on, almost forgot. The Infuse Compassion into Companies conference is coming November 14th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. You don't want to miss it. It's virtual. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers that are going to blow your mind and open your hearts and just make you better in the world and at work. Anything that I didn't add here, Mark? The website. What's the website?
Yeah. Go to infusecompassion.com and register and get on that list. We have an early bird rate that's a little lower than the normal rate. So get out there as soon as you can. Get on, join us on November 14th for the Infuse Compassion into Companies Conference. ICIC is what we like to call it. And infusecompassion.com, again, is the website where you can register.
All right, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We'll see you soon. Bye.
See you next time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.